Hi, this is my first YouTube channel, and I'm going to be talking about mental health conditions. And if you have any questions for me about the conditions you may be suffering from, or you may have a family member or a friend, so I'll just talk about me until people ask me any questions. So, from the age of 8, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Um, so it was really challenging, and I couldn't concentrate in school and stuff like that. And um, my mum had to come into class with me, and I think it was really hard for her because she didn't really understand like entirely what it really meant, I think. And most people back then just thought that it was a child that was just naughty or having a short attention span or just was a troublemaker, um, and that didn't want to learn. So that's how my mental health started. From the age of 10, I started medication 3 times a day. I would be zombified, really tired, everything. And um, I couldn't have anything with orange in it, any additives. Um, so yeah, and it didn't really affect me as much because I was young and I was really active and I had things to entertain myself. And yeah, but when later on in life, when I was secondary school age, I found to get myself into a lot of trouble, and people were trying to challenge me because I was really strong and stuff like that. And the first day of secondary school, I got into a really big fight, and I got bullied a lot in school because I was just different. Um, Not only because of my skin color, but from the area that I lived in, there was a lot of poverty. So, if the people that don't know me, I'm actually from Wolverhampton and Heath Town. So it was really rough then. Um, so it's like environmental factors that can affect mental health conditions. Um, so I went into care when I was 10, and I had a lot of abandonment issues and attachment issues and trust issues. And that carried on through my teenage life. So when I hit 14, I ended up going to a psychiatric hospital on a section 3. They said that I had PTSD, um, EUPD, which is like a personality disorder. There's many types of personality disorders, and um, I was put on a lot of medication. I would fight the system. I didn't really understand why I was there. I was so unwell that I didn't even know that I was in hospital. We had this thing in the hospital that I was in Birmingham. On the ward, we had these pods. So I spent nearly 2 years in there, and I spent a lot of time in seclusion. For people that don't know what seclusion is, it's like a cell. Back then, it was a thin mattress like this. Um, there was no washing facilities. Um, it was pretty bad. I won't go into detail because I don't want to scare people. But the facilities these days have changed. So I see these people on TikTok and Facebook saying that they've been sectioned and they want to get out and it is so bad. But the system is a lot better than it was back then. Like if you was hyper, if you kicked off, if you self-harmed and you weren't psychotic, you would get injected with antipsychotics. Even back then they used to use this thing called Accuphase, which is a lethal injection basically with so many different antipsychotics to sedate you. So you would have 150, you'd have 1 day free, then 150, 1 day free, and then 150. It affects people in different ways. Sometimes some people it doesn't really affect them and they have to have a few courses. And sometimes it knocks people out for 3 days. And you have to wake them up to feed them and to give them medication if they like have medication for like physical health issues or even mental health issues. But when you Accuphase, you tend not to give them their regular medication like antipsychotics and depressants because they have sedatives. So anyway, yeah, I spent like my first 7 years of my teenage life in hospital from 2007 to 2014. It wasn't easy. There was a variety of different personalities, very challenging behavior. I'd never seen self harm like it before. Um, it was very difficult to adapt to. I was a very independent person, and my independence was taken away from me from a very young age. So coming into hospital when I didn't get to use my independence, um, I struggled, and I liked my freedom, and I've always been a free spirit. Even at home, I used to go on days out with my family and stuff like that. Go out with my dad to work, hang around with my brothers and sisters on the estate, go to adventure playgrounds. So, mental health is a very wide spectrum, and there's so many conditions. So you can have like schizoaffective disorder, which is very common. The schizoaffective disorder is schizophrenia, which is like visual, um, audio hallucinations, and even touch. Then the other part of the schizoaffective disorder is bipolar. So bipolar, you can be like very manic. Some people like to shop. Some people like to clean. Some people are manic in how they talk. Um, they can be very hard to manage, and um, usually with like bipolar, you treat it with lithium. But when you have like a schizoaffective disorder, you can treat it with quetiapine. Um, so quetiapine, some people start off on 150 and titrate up. Titrate means so you increase it slowly. So the recommended dose in 24 hours is 800. But if you're over the BNF by a certain percentage, you can go past 800. So, for instance, I was 150% over the BNF. Um, so, um, I could go up to 1,200, but I never went to that. So then there is schizophrenia, which is hallucinations. And hallucinations, like I said before, comes in three different types: audio, visual, and touch. And some people can even have the taste. And then also they can be other like conditions like depression. Depression can come in different forms. So some people can have ECT if they're like clinically depressed. So it starts from anxiety and stress. Then it climbs a ladder and you become socially awkward, anxiety in public, panic attacks, and then it climbs up the ladder. But at the end of the ladder, you're clinically depressed. So some people go on sertraline, cetirizine because they're sedatives and they help with the mind and to control depressive and manic moments. There's Mirtazapine, which is a very common one. So you can start with 15, and I think it goes up to 45 as a maximum. Um, but after a while, with any kind of mental health medication, you build a tolerance to it. So you find that you have to keep it increasing, and you become accustomed to it. And when you first come into hospital, if you're at a very crisis and manic moment, you probably will be offered medication from the start, depending on your section. But some people are monitored for a few weeks to a few months, and then they say, we think you have this illness or this condition, and we would like you to try this medication. So, um, hospital is a last resort for anyone, and in some cultures, they like to keep the family at home because they don't believe in putting them in hospital. But sometimes it can be a strain on the family. And I know me personally, my behaviour and my health conditions was a strain on my family and friends, and my personal life, and my work life, and my education. And I'm glad that I came in hospital because now I feel like I'm a person again. So sometimes, yeah, people are in hospital far too long, and it's just it's different for different people, and different people experience it in different ways. Um, but my experience as a child, I thought it was all a game. I didn't really understand at that age. You don't really understand, especially when you're not well. Um, so as an adult, I didn't really like fully um want to commit to being in hospital, but I came in for more um, due to depression and anxiety. Um, I wanted to be heavily medicated, sedated because I couldn't cope with the feelings that I was feeling. Um, and I felt like so manic all the time. I wasn't being medicated for my ADHD. And um, I just wanted to be able to focus with my studies, and I loved my family so much, and I didn't want to put them through any animosity or any grief, or I wanted to be the first um child from my mum and dad to go to university, to get a better education. My brothers and sisters, they're educated, yeah. But I always put myself ahead. I wanted to push myself further, probably much more than I could do. But I had so many high expectations of myself, and the expectations in life. I don't think it was a good time at the time. But now I look back, the expectations are good because it's pushed me and it's strived me to become a better person. I wasn't a very nice person. I was caring, I was loving, I was compassionate. But sometimes I was rude. I was outspoken. Um, I used to run away from care. Um, I used to argue with my family. Get into a lot of fights. I didn't know that my level of understanding was quite different. And yes, I had GCSEs and I had diplomas, but my understanding was different. No matter how much education you have, if you don't understand something, you just don't understand, and you can't make someone understand. They have to learn to understand. And it's only now in 2025 where I'm comfortable in my own body, where I can come live onto the internet and discuss my personal situations. I think that sometimes conditions can be hereditary, and sometimes it's just the upbringing that you have. So I won't going to say names, but like, just say if um my granddad had mental health issues and he behaved in a certain way, and then my dad had mental health issues and then he behaved in a certain way. I learned it as a young child and picked it up, adapted to it, thought it was normal, and it affected me. It didn't happen, by the way, but yeah. Or it can be environmental factors like poverty, community, um, education, lifestyle, um, as like people like probably being on the streets. So like even drugs can be a big factor in mental health. And let me just tell you this: people that take substances, um, like and they're on psychiatric medication or even physical medication, it won't work properly. So um, it works in a different way, and your tolerance is a lot different. But I've learned a lot from watching things on BBC iPlayer, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Netflix. I watch like true crime, even Channel U. Um, because you just get to learn about people's like upbringings, areas, and like why they're where they are. And so I was watching Adolescence a couple of weeks ago, and I was watching a bit of it today, and it makes sense, and it stemmed from um his dad's dad, his granddad. Now, in the adolescence, his granddad was nice to him and his sister and his mom. But when the young boy goes to young offenders, it's his dad's birthday, and his granddad sends his son, adolescent's father, a birthday card with £5 in it. And but if you just need to watch it to understand it anyway, because I don't want to spoil it for you. But their son, he made a birthday card for his dad, and he drew a picture, and that meant a lot to him, um, because he felt like he was getting his son back and he was getting his hobbies back. Um, but yeah, it did have an effect on the family as well, and if you watch it, you'll understand like people that are admitted to hospital or prisons or whatever in some kind of institutions. We think that it affects us in our lives, but really it affects our family. It affects our mom. It affects our dads, our siblings, our grandparents, our cousins, our children, and I mean, wow, we don't think like that. And I think I wasn't selfish. I was thinking about me and my well being and what I needed. But it doesn't make me selfish at all because I love my family. And yeah, a lot of people stopped talking to me when I came into hospital, but I never really understood why. And now I understand why. And slowly I'm gaining the relationship back with them. Well, I've always had my friends, but with my family, I'm regaining the relationship. And you always have to set boundaries. The things that you don't like or don't want, you just have to set boundaries in life. Not even if you've got mental health problems, you just have to set boundaries with everyone, and everyone has their own expectations. So I'm going to end it there. I'll do my next one soon, and I hope to have a bit of feedback. And take care of yourself. And remember, if you have a family or friend, or if you're a healthcare provider, just think, if your family or friend was in hospital, how would you want them to be treated? And how could you educate other people to treat people with mental health conditions or some kind of disability like ADHD or autism? Stay tuned. Thank you.